appointment to the board was stacked all the way against me. I was young and inexperienced, I was a woman, and I was Donald Trump's daughter. It might appear as if this last would be a plus, but I didn't see it counting for a whole lot in my favor. If anything, it might have given the impression that I had been tapped only for some vague public relations value. Growing up with two brothers, I'd watched enough baseball to know you only get 3 strikes, so I might have counted myself out before I even stepped to the plate. But then I realized that what some people might regard as a negative, others might see as a strength. Maybe my relative youth and inexperience would help me offer a fresh take. Maybe the board needed a young woman's perspective. Maybe the fact that I was Donald Trump's eyes and ears on the board, as I was at the Trump Organization and on his reality television show, would make me uniquely qualified to offer insights and strategies for positioning the 3 Trump-branded casinos that were the primary assets of the company. In any case, it was overwhelming, intimidating. So how did I handle it? I dug in, breathed deep, and vowed to do whatever it took to show my new colleagues on the board and the company's management team that I added real value. And merely belonging wouldn't quite cut it in my estimation. I was determined to play an essential role. I might be nervous, but I wouldn't show it. I might be intimidated, but I wouldn't show it. I might even be a bit overmatched in my first few meetings, but I'd get up to speed before long. And sure enough, that's just what happened. By the end of that first meeting, most of my anxieties fell away and I walked back to my office in Trump Tower feeling as if I had made a contribution after all, as if I would make an even greater contribution going forward. Let's face it, when you come from a place where good enough is not quite good enough, you're bound to push yourself. You're disinclined to take anything for granted. And you're not about to be dismissed just because someone might think you've had an unfair advantage. These days, I try not to let it bother me when someone jumps to conclusions about my abilities. I have a tough skin and enough confidence not to worry about being underestimated because of my last name, my relative youth, or my modeling background. It comes with the territory. I've reached the point where I know I'm no lightweight. I am perfectly capable of separating my colleagues and associates from this type of snap judgment when it comes up, which happens less and less these days, I am happy to report. The message I put out to people who are prepared to write me off before even meeting with me? Get over it. It's the same message I used to give myself whenever I spent too much time worrying what people would think of me or how I'd risen to my position in the company or what attributes I brought to the table. I catch myself agonizing along these lines and just think, just get over it, Ivanka. Or, it's not your problem, it's theirs. After all, I eventually realized we've all got our own baggage. Whatever we do, whatever our backgrounds, we've all had some kind of advantage somewhere along the way. Some break that might have gone to someone else, some edge or inside track we couldn't have counted on. As long as I'm on that inside track, I might as well work that metaphor a bit more to make my point. That perceived lead I might have had starting out, it's like the stagger you see in a middle-distance event at a track meet. You know, where the runners line up in a stepping-stone way in their separate lanes? The runner in the outside lane well ahead of the field before the starting gun goes off, the runner in the inside lane well behind. It's set up that way so each runner covers the same ground before she reaches the first straightaway, but it has the appearance of being an advantage. In truth, the only advantage is psychological. Each runner ends up covering the same ground by the end of the race. With me, it probably looked as if I were in the outside lane, way ahead of the rest of the pack before the race even started. But I still had to run the distance. I still had to go to school, learn the basics, develop my own style, make and support my own decisions, and on and on. What a lot of people don't realize is that this all-too-common misperception usually runs hand in hand with another. It took me a while to recognize this. But there's definitely a flip side to how other people might see you, way out there in life's outer lane with the apparent jump start. On the one hand, you get the idea that my success